Happy Lag BaOmer for those that are tuning in on Tuesday morning. It's a special holiday today. It's a day in which there's this break in the usual period of time that we're in right now. This is a unique period of time in the Jewish calendar. We spent the past month in this sort of interesting sort of national mourning, as you can tell from the growth of my beard. This is part of the mourning process is not shaving, not listening to music, no parties. And now today is sort of the break in that. So if you'd like to, you can say goodbye to my beard with God's help tomorrow. Hopefully you won't see it. As dictated wonderfully and gracefully by my wife, who's in charge. It's a beautiful day today, and we're charting ourselves into spring. And spring is a time in which we're thinking of growth. Spring is a time in which we're really trying to make ourselves better. And even what's going on right now in our world, I feel like the mood has sort of shifted a little bit. There's some positive news. There's some movement in the right direction. And the sense that I think people are feeling a little bit is like they're ready to get out. But if you're really thinking about it, I think there's also a sense of like, I hope I didn't just use this period of time for nothing. I hope I didn't just duck during this period of time and I'm going to emerge the same person that I was beforehand, just with a little bit more time in my four walls. This is the time in which we have to come out and we have to grow. We got to be bigger and better. We've been talking this week about this idea of how to execute, how to make it real and practical. Last week, we spent a lot of time in the world of sort of seeing, in the world of the mind. For those that are joining us for the first time, thank you. For those that have been here before, appreciate you coming back. All these are on demand through WhatsApp and Instagram and on YouTube. Just look at all those platforms for my stuff. But as we get now towards the world of execution, we've been talking about how. How do you execute on your dreams? Dreams are just directions. They're there to tell you where you're ultimately going. There's like 100 steps to get from New York to Florida. The destination for any good Jew is Florida. We want to get down there at some point. It's going to take us a long time to drive there. That's the vision. That's the goal. That's where I want to end up. But how do I get out of my driveway? How do I just navigate the car down this highway or that highway? How do I do it? And the answer there is 1%. Now, there are moments in your life where you can make massive change, which we'll get to. And I got a couple of questions yesterday, which I appreciate about. What about if you're a person that's very intense? There's definitely a way of life, which is you make big moves, no question. We'll build to that. But let's sort of stay where we are right now in this world of why 1% works so much. Why did Dave Brailsford bring it to the British Cycling Group and transform the place? Why does a person who is constantly looking for the 1% grow exponentially? And the reason why it works so well is because of two separate reasons. First, the underlying cause that we have to understand here is that everything that we're doing that's going to last is really brain work. One of the great mistakes that we make is that we think that the reason why we're not enough is because we don't have enough willpower. That's a major misconception. As if I had more willpower, I would be A, B, C, D, and E. The reason why that person is more successful at anything in life is because they have willpower, and I don't. In this particular area, I just can't not eat. I just can't not say that thing. I just can't not be angry. I just can't get it together. I just can't get my closet organized. We all have like the thing that we can do because of the lack of willpower that we have, and that willpower is the culprit for my inability to become more. So we blame willpower, and then in moments of inspiration, when you have that like feeling of like, now it's going to be different. No, now it's totally going to be different. Something happens magically inside you when you get inspired, right? Like all of a sudden, like you have this power that you didn't have before. a couple of days ago you couldn't pass on dessert, and now all of a sudden, like, you see this person who lost all this weight, or you see this thing that really works, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, I just can't believe this is happening to me. And now you have the power. Never happened to you? All of a sudden, like, you get this magical, like, electric current. And now you didn't have the power, and now you do have the power. Off you go. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, a week. How long does that last? Wake up one morning, you snooze the alarm. I don't want to go to the gym. You come down, you reach for the thing you shouldn't be eating. You sit at dinner again. Just give me one more. Just give me one more. I'll lose weight tomorrow. Round and round we go. Because we have a major misconception that what's blocking us is willpower. So there's a great researcher down from Florida State University. And this professor conducted incredible research. What he did was he took college kids and he put them in 2 separate waiting rooms. He went to the college group and he wanted to see how long kids can last by taking very difficult problems. So he advertised on campus that you'll get paid to come to this lab, and all you got to do is, like, take a hard test. He got kids to sign up. And for half of the group, he split them in half. For half of the group, he had them go to a specific waiting room before they all ended up in the same room for the test, but there were 2 sort of waiting rooms that sort of fed into the test room. That's how I read the research. In waiting room 1 were freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. Now, for a college kid, that's like, forget about it. So they're sitting in the room, they walk in, and the entire room is filled with the aroma of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. The kids are like, where can I dive? How can I just, like, consume all of these? And as they get closer to the tray of cookies, there was a sign that said, don't touch the cookies. And he had them wait in that room for 15, 20 minutes, just smelling the aroma and not being able to touch it. Then he invites them into the room to take the test, and they last, I think it was an average of 8 minutes. The next group, he has them into a different waiting room. This room, as they walk in, waiting on the table for them was a tray of freshly cut radishes. And it says in the sign, don't touch the radishes. And the kids are like, yeah, no problem. Sure. They sat there for 20 minutes and they walked into the room, and they lasted, I think, an average of 20 to 25 minutes. And he started to explore this aspect in psychology, which I think is mind-blowing. It's called ego depletion. Ego, not from the sense arrogance, ego, the Freudian sense, a sense of self. And here's what he discovered. And this has been, for those who have the book, it's in the book. For those who wanted me to send you a link of some of the research or just more about this guy, I'm happy to. This sort of exploded through a whole world of research. Oh, here it is. Andy already posted it. The chocolate and the radish experience. This is wonderful. Andy, the best. So those who are on live with me now, it's on the chat. And for those that are watching later, I'll try to post it on the different groups that we're on. That's what happens when you have Andy Boltax as your man behind the scenes. It exploded an entire world of understanding. We think that the reason why we're not more successful is because we don't have enough willpower. But what this professor showed, I think his name was Baumgarten. What this professor showed was that actually willpower isn't a resource that you can turn on and off. Roy Baumeister, that's who it is. This isn't something you could turn on and off by some light switch that's inside you. Willpower is a limited resource. And every day, if you can almost imagine, you have a finite amount of willpower. Picture as if you wake up every morning and you have gas in your tank. There's a finite amount of gas in your tank. And you get to choose where you're going every day with that gas. But it's finite. It's not infinite. It doesn't last forever. You just get to choose how to use it. So for the students that walked into a room and they were told they can't touch the cookies, they had to use that muscle called willpower. They had to go to the tank and use it to not touch the cookies. And because they used the muscle for the cookies, they had less of it for the tough test that they had to take afterwards. And the truth is, he wasn't testing them on the test. He was testing them to see how long they would last. It was an impossible test of brain teasers, only designed to see how long they can go for. But for the students that were sitting in a radish group, they could care less. They used no willpower for the radishes, so they had a much stronger muscle, much more gas in the tank for the test they took later. It's like when you work out. You ever do push-ups before? Even if you're in shape and you sit down to do your first few push-ups, you're like, this is a piece of cake. When you get further down the road, however far you can go, you're like, I can't feel my arms. Because a muscle, so to speak, is a finite resource that you can flex only to some extent. And then at some point, it just fails. If you see willpower as a deficiency in your character, you're going to look at yourself and go, I can't do these things. But if you see willpower as a finite resource of which all of us have just one muscle of willpower, you could make it stronger and weaker throughout your life, for sure. You can extend it and weaken it, no question. But at the end of the day, it's a finite resource. Which is why if you've ever dieted before, you know that you're amazing in the morning and you always collapse at night. Why? Why are you making like an egg and like a smoothie in the morning for breakfast and then like you're just polishing box after box at night? It's because in the morning you have a full tank of gas. In the morning you've got a muscle that's rested from a night's sleep. So that when you go and start your day and you're looking at the food, you're like, I got plenty of willpower for this. Then you got to go through your day. And there's traffic and you need to like use willpower to not get upset. Then you get to the work and this person frustrates you. And then you got to do this. And then you got to like focus on getting your job done. Then an email comes in you didn't expect. And then a phone call comes in. Then you got to go back on the train. You're constantly exercising willpower to say things or not say things, to do things or not do things. Then by the time you get to the end of your day, you get no willpower left. So all of a sudden that same thing that didn't tempt you 7 hours earlier, all of a sudden has you break down. Why is that? Which is why, by the way, honestly, if you look at the schedules of really successful people, it's weighted heavily towards the morning. Because before the day starts and people suck your willpower for you, you want to have enough time to do the things proactively. Because once you start the day, people are sucking your willpower whether you like it or not. It's a whole conversation we could talk about scheduling. And how if you schedule things for the middle of your day, you're less effective. You need to have times when nobody's around, not because you need to be a loner, but because you need things that are not pulling at your willpower. Now, what that means is once you realize that your willpower is finite, like me and you stop beating yourself up for not being more. You start realizing that it's not a question of using your willpower to get to any destination. It's a question of allocating the willpower in a way that it is the most effective. If I've got a muscle that I need to use, and throughout my day, I've got important things and not important things. If I think that it's a character flaw, then I'm out. But once I realize that it is a finite resource, then what I really need to do is learn how to allocate it better. So if I only have a little bit of willpower and I got 10 things to do today, what I should be doing is going, what's the most important thing I got to do? What ends up happening for many of us, honestly, before we even get into this world, is we have this finite resources, but we waste it on news and we waste it on like drama. And we waste it on things that are urgent, but not important. We expend our energy on things that are not important. So that when we come to something that is important, we don't have the necessary energy that we can allocate to it. If I've spent my day on some drama in the office that has no bearing of my life, and then I come home and I don't have the patience for my children, I have just misallocated my willpower. If I'm getting upset by the news that I'm seeing in my head, and I've now lost the ability to answer the emails that I need to answer properly, then I'm misallocating the finite muscle. It's not that I can't do my work. It's that I don't realize that I am giving over to nothingness my precious willpower. If I'm expending willpower on a show that I am addicted to, and now I'm at the edge of my seat to see if this actor is going to die, even though I know that the actor won an award because they are the best dyer in the world. They made $10 million an episode because they die better than, but I have used my morning or afternoon or commute to expend my energy on, I hope that they don't die, and then I get to work. That's why I am not killing it at work. Once we see that the willpower that we have is our most precious commodity, then part of this pre-game that we spoke about last week is, where do I allocate it to the most important things that I'm doing? But here's how it comes together. Watch this. And we'll review this, but just let me throw it out today in the 2-3 minutes I have left. Your brain is neuroplastic, which means when you have a thought, the thought continues, right? And at some point it feels normal. It was hard to think of the yellow box as Cheerios. And then over time you kept on hearing it, and now you use brain power to say Cheerios, right? When you were young, it was hard to remember to brush your teeth. And at some point, you've been doing the same thing in the same place so many times that it becomes habituated. And when it becomes habituated, you use zero brain power and you've got clean teeth. It was hard. You needed willpower to get to your office the first time you went there. You had to figure out what exit to get off, what floor to do. Like, use willpower. So that first week of your new job required your willpower. You exercise the muscle to get to your desk, to get to the bathroom, to get to the copier, to figure out how to make coffee. If you do it every single day, that knowledge creates a brain map. It habituates with me. And now it costs zero attention, zero brain power to get to the same desk. So by doing something again and again and again, what ends up happening is you take your willpower and you exercise it on the habit. But what happens to your habits is your habits over time feel like they're you. You see, when you do things consistently, your brain adapts to them, and then over time, it does it automatically almost. It moves it from your conscious brain, which requires energy and attention, to your subconscious brain, which happens automatically. We'll do this again, but just for today. That's the power of habit. You see, what habit does is it takes the thing that you focus your willpower on, and if you do it again and again and again every day, if you go +1 and you stay consistent, all of a sudden, it makes it part of your automatic brain. And now you get to have that thing and take that allocation of willpower and put it to the next thing. I hope that made sense. I hope I said that right. Because once you get that, a lot opens up. Once we realize that I have a limited amount of willpower, right? And as a result, I got to allocate it better. Well, where should I allocate my willpower? Let me allocate it on things that I do consistently. Because if I do them consistently over time, my brain will create new neural connections, and then I'll be able to do that thing and not need willpower. So the more I do it, the less willpower I need. And over time, I get that thing. And now I've taken the allocation and I've gotten my allocation back, then I can put it someplace else. We'll talk about this again. But this is the beginning of how the mind starts working with the body to be able to condition greatness. So greatness becomes, by the way, it's a conditioning mechanism. It's not a destination. It's a process. But until then, we should think about this today. Think about the habits that we have and where it's taking us. Think about things we do consistently and how over time they felt like they're normal, and now we've gotten that willpower back. And let's begin a little bit, stop beating ourselves up so much for not having more willpower, and start thinking about this limited muscle that we have and where we're allocating it. And we'll spend hopefully the next couple of days really getting underneath this. But until then, hope you all have an amazing day. Happy Lag BaOmer to everybody who's out there. And I look forward, with God's help, to seeing you again tomorrow. Thanks so much for the time. Looking forward to it.